Hey there, cinephiles, welcome back to Couch Kernels. And if my hat didn't tell you, we're getting into a Christmas mood here. Some might say it's too early for Christmas, but if the look of the retail stores is to be believed, I'm actually about a month and a half behind.
I'm late for a very important date.
So yes, we're on to Christmas. I mentioned last video that we were possibly going to have a new theme, and we are. But we won't be tackling just any Christmas movies, no. We're going to cover the Christmas sequels nobody asked for. I mean, seriously, some of the ones we're doing, when I told people I was going to talk about them, they said, I didn't know that was a thing. People so much did not ask for these that the bulk of people don't even know they exist. Now, obviously, I could just tell you all the ones we'll be doing right now, but where's the fun in that?
I'm having a good time.
This time, though, we're going to talk about a movie that is supposed to be a direct sequel to one of the ultimate Christmas classics. No, not that one. Though there was a sequel rumored to be in the works for it at one point, but it sounded like an actual travesty. No, we're covering Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys, which is a hysterically long and incorrect name. They seriously barely go there in the movie. Anyway, this movie came out in 2001, 37 years after the original. You would hope that with that amount of time you could say it was worth the wait, but when you delay that long, do you really ever end up with anything as good? But let's get into it. The criteria for rating today's movie are plot and writing, visuals, voice acting, dialogue, and soundtrack. Starting as usual with plot and writing.
Story time.
So, remember how Rudolph and Clarice had grown up over the course of the original classic? Yeah, this movie doesn't. They're both young again, and the movie has no interest in explaining why. You could assume that the movie just takes place before the end of the first movie, like Tarzan 2, or Bambi 2, or The Lion King 1.5, but it doesn't. It definitively comes after. Hermie has gone to dental school and is an actual full-fledged DDS.
Yeah, and you're an anti-dentite.
And Bumble and Yukon Cornelius have a fully realized peppermint mine going. Anyway, Rudolph is having a hard time dealing with his newfound fame, especially since everyone is treating it like some hokey gimmick, though, to be fair, they kind of made it that way this time. Before, where the nose glowed and illuminated a whole area, it now acts like a flashlight and you can point it and everything. They have him pointed at a disco ball. Seriously. The major part of the story, though, is that there's this guy going around taking toys, and just a few days before Christmas,
We did it again!
he takes all the toys from Santa's workshop or warehouse or whatever. Santa's crew obviously doesn't have the time to make a whole new batch for every kid on the planet in time, but where Rudolph and Hermie had recently returned to the Island of Misfit Toys and helped out the king, plus they also discovered another island of toys out there, nobody thinks to get all the toys from these two islands and deliver them. Maybe they figured that would just be the same idea as the first one again and didn't want to reuse the whole thing? I don't know. Oh, by the way, the guy who took all the toys, he has the best name. Really clever. You'll never get it. Ready? He's called the Toy Taker.
Dear God.
There's more.
No.
So, Rudolph and company decide to try and get help from the toys on the Island of Misfit Toys, basically planning to trick the Toy Taker. Rudolph comes up with this plan that they set in motion, which ends up with one of the group being left behind, but I probably shouldn't cover the plan. I've already told you most of this one. It is not a long movie. Anyway, since a chunk of this is rehashed, and since they had to come up with some pretty lazy ways to get everyone out on an adventure again, I don't think we'll give a kernel here. I almost gave a half-popped one because I liked the ending, but I couldn't find any. Now for the visuals. This one is animated, but where the original did stop motion for its look, this one went the fashionable 3D animated route. They actually try really hard here to make it look like the Rankin and Bass original, but the textures are too smooth and they did redesigns on basically every character who isn't a main character. Santa and Mrs. Claus are taller and actually have whites to their eyes. Many of the other reindeer do too. Problem is that with these newly and weirdly whited eyes and the fact that they never blink, it's like a bunch of lawn ornaments. Actually, I think the official Rudolph lawn ornaments look better than this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, it isn't the worst 3D animation out there. It's along the same sort of visual quality as VeggieTales. The problem with that? This movie came out in 2001, and VeggieTales released its first episode in 1993. It looks dated and really did when it released, so for that reason, we won't be giving a kernel here. Let's talk about the voice acting.
I do voices.
So, with 37 years between the two films, nobody reprised their original roles. Though, to the credit of the actors covering returning main characters here, they did fine jobs of imitating the originals for the most part. Most of them believably sound like the originals. The performance for Rudolph is especially commendable. But a large part of where this movie shines in the voice acting is through the performances of the actors playing a few of the side characters. On top of that, these side characters are voiced by an incredible cast of well-known actors. The Toy Taker, for example, is voiced by Rick Moranis, who had actually retired a few years prior to the release of this movie. Queen Camilla on the newly found Toy Island is voiced by Jamie Lee Curtis. And our narrator this time around, a news snowman telling us the whole scoop, is voiced by Richard Dreyfuss. Seriously, what these performances are doing in here absolutely confounds me, but they also earn the movie a kernel. So, the dialogue. Normally we talk about the quotable lines here, but the only ones I found were kind of aggressively stupid. There's a point during Rudolph's plan where everyone is pretending to be toys, and Hermie dresses up using the bouncing tooth from his vehicle. Rudolph says to him, "The idea was to dress up as toys, Hermie," to which Hermie replies, I'm a misfit molar?" Later on, Yukon Cornelius exclaims, "If only I had some rope," and Hermie chimes in, "Will dental floss do?" These are the ones that stood out for me, but they're ridiculously dumb. To me. Like a desperate attempt to make Hermie funny. They kinda failed there. And even if the lines weren't bad, there are only 2 of them, so there won't be a kernel here for dialogue. Finally, the soundtrack. Throughout the movie, there are many actions that result in cartoonish sound effects, which seem really out of place for the animation style. And I don't remember there being any in the original, so they just don't fit. The cartoonish sound effects were more of a Frosty the Snowman thing, or a Charlie Brown Christmas thing. Not Rudolph. Then, sadly, where the original had several songs you might remember, like the classic Rudolph song, the various Misfit songs, and Silver and Gold, this one has a few songs that are just derivative of the originals, but all of the songs here are completely forgettable. Coming from such a legacy, it's honestly disappointing. The soundtrack doesn't get a kernel here. Now let's tip out our bucket and see what we have. 1. We have 1 kernel here. I felt bad for judging this movie so hard, but it just didn't earn most of the kernels. It just didn't work as a sequel or a Christmas movie. Hang on. What's this? Oh. These are Christmas Spirit kernels. These are very special. I only have 3 of them, I think. Yeah. I'm gonna only give these to movies in this theme that give me a warm, fuzzy feeling at some point.
I'm all toasty inside.
But as I run lower, I'm going to need to be more selective. First one, though, we'll give here. As I said, I like the ending on this one. It was a really nice moment in a movie that was otherwise aggressively mediocre. So, with our Christmas Spirit kernel, this movie is now up to a score of 2. Let's move on to Name That Frame. Before we get into the new round, it's time to reveal the answer to our round from my Scribbler and V for Vendetta videos. The answer is The Secret of Nim. My copy is a double feature that for some reason has Timmy from the second movie as the only character on the cover. Oh well. Congratulations to the winners of the round! And now, if you look at my TV screen, we have a still for our next movie or TV show. I'll tell you now that this round is Christmas themed. Know the movie? Comment below. You have a few videos to change your mind, though, so don't worry if you dislike your original answer. That's it for me. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments at all, please put them below. I try to answer all of them. Goodbye!